Hello everybody, my name is Grace and today I'm going to talk about the book is Who Was Queen Elizabeth II? Who was Queen Elizabeth II? 10-year-old Princess Elizabeth had spent time in castles and palaces in England and Scotland. Since she had been born, her father was a duke. Her grandfather was the King of the United Kingdom, or the UK, which included England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Like a fairy tale princess, Elizabeth led a happy, carefree life in a big house in London, called Lilibet by family members. Elizabeth had everything a princess could want: dogs, ponies, tiaras, closets full of pretty dresses, and a lot of free time. She didn't go to school. She was taught by her nanny at home. At the age of 6, she was given her own tiny cottage with a thatched roof made of straw. It was a playhouse for her and her younger sister, Margaret. It came with a working kitchen and a child-sized furniture in all rooms. Lilibet and Margaret were incredibly popular with the British people. Even as a baby, Lilibet received letters and gifts, 3 tons of toys. People from far away, such as Australia. Although Elizabeth was a princess, she never expected to become a queen herself. Her uncle Edward was the oldest son of the king, so he was first in line for the throne. That meant Edward would become a king after his father died. Lilibet's father, who was Edward's younger brother, was the second in line. But once Edward had a family of his own, his oldest child would be second in line. At first, when Lilibet's grandfather died in January 1938, that's what happened. Her uncle became King Edward VIII. But everything changed. Edward fell in love with an American woman. He wanted to marry her, but she had divorced twice. According to the Church of England, a king could not marry a divorced woman. Edward wanted to marry her so much, he decided to give up being king. On December 10, 1936, King Edward signed papers and immediately stepped down. Lilibet's father instantly became king. Her father's real name was Albert, but he chose George as his royal name. King George VI. Now that her father was king, Lilibet was suddenly in line for the next throne. A servant came to tell Elizabeth the news. He bowed as he entered the room. From that moment, everyone treated her differently. Her life was planned out for her. She only had one child, learning how to be queen. One day, she would rule over an empire that included 56 countries around the world. At the age of 10, Elizabeth had no idea how quickly that might have happened. Chapter 1. A Young Princess. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor was born at home on a rainy night, April 21st, 1926. While Lilibet was a baby, her family moved to an enormous house in London. It had a ballroom, a library, and 25 bedrooms. Once her father was king, her family moved into Buckingham Palace, an enormous palace in the center of London. It had 775 rooms with hundreds of people working there. Huge iron gates at the front kept people out. 30 guards dressed in bright red uniforms, including tall bearskin hats. Lilibet's father had never wanted to be king. King George VI was very shy and stuttered when he spoke. He loved horses and dogs, When Lilibet was only 3, she had her first riding lesson. When she was 7, her father gave her a Welsh corgi named Dookie. From then on, she loved horses and corgis, almost more than anything else. Lilibet's nanny was named Marion Crawford. Everyone called her Crawfie. She spent nearly all day with Lilibet and Margaret, teaching them history, reading, geography, and grammar. As a young child, Lilibet was sometimes naughty. She had a hot temper like her father and grandfather. But as Lilibet grew up, her mother taught her to control her anger. She told her never shout at people, especially when she became queen, or people would lose trust in her. By the time she was 10, Lilibet had turned into a serious girl. She liked to have fun with her family and could be friendly and charming. But she was quiet and dignified in public. She already knew how to act like a queen. Lilibet's young sister, Margaret, was the opposite of her, wild and free. She loved mocking the way famous people spoke. Lilibet laughed, but never do anything like that herself. Elizabeth's father once said, "Lilibet is my pride, Margaret is my joy." Both girls visited their parents' room every morning to play and have fun. It was a family tradition. Sometimes Crawfie and the young princesses left Buckingham Palace for a day, so they could see what ordinary life was like. The nanny also started a Girl Guides troop in the palace. The Girl Guides were like the Girl Scouts in the United States, but all of Lilibet's playmates and friends had to courtesy her and call her ma'am, because she would be queen one day. When Lilibet turned 13, she started studying with a tutor named Sir Henry Martin. Twice a week, Lilibet went to Martin's study, where he kept a pet raven. Martin taught Lilibet about all the rules and laws of the country. It was a lot to learn, but Lilibet needed to know all of it. She would need to understand exactly what she couldn't do as the monarch. Lilibet didn't mind all the studying required of her, but she did mind having to live in a cooped up in Buckingham Palace. She spent hours at the windows, looking out at the world and wondering what the normal life would be like. At night, the young princess knelt beside her and said her prayers. Her mother was very religious, and Lilibet was too. In England, the monarch was the head of the Church of England. One day, Lilibet would become the head of the church. As she grew up, Lilibet learned how to behave properly in public. Her mother taught her to sit up straight so that her back never touched the back of the chair. She learned that she would never cry in public, even if she fell down or hurt herself. Lilibet's grandmother, Queen Mary, told her that the queen should never smile in public. Lilibet and Margaret always had to courtesy their grandmother. After World War II broke out in Europe in 1939, German planes dropped thousands of bombs on London. Buckingham Palace was bombed 9 times. Lilibet's parents, the king and queen, didn't flee the city though. They stayed in the palace to show the country that they were facing dangers like everyone else. But Lilibet and Margaret were sent to live in Windsor Castle, 20 miles away. At Windsor Castle, Elizabeth and Margaret spent a long time with young soldiers who were there to protect them. Crawfie invented games for girls and soldiers to play, treasure hunts, and versions of hide and seek. At Christmas, Elizabeth performed in a show at the castle. She sang and tap danced for the soldiers and townspeople. The war's years at Windsor Castle weren't all fun and games, though life there was hard. The whistling sounds of bombs falling filled the night air. Even the royal family had to do without some basic necessities. They had very little hot water. Bathtubs were filled to only 5 inches deep. When the bombing was bad in London, the king and queen would retreat to Windsor Castle at night. They stayed with Elizabeth and Margaret in a shelter under one castle towers. At 18, Elizabeth was old enough to help with the war effort. She spent 3 weeks in the women's branch of the army in England. She learned how to drive a truck, change spark plugs, and fix the truck's engine. She later said it was only time he had the chance to compare herself with people her age. The British people loved seeing photos of their favorite princess in uniform. Everyone wanted to defeat the Nazis. The war taught Elizabeth how important it was for the whole country to pull together, and for the royal family is to do its part in making that happen. So that's all of chapter 1, and I think I will see you in chapter 2 and maybe 3. Bye!